Fame can be flashy, but there's always more to the story. Here, we go beyond the headlines and talk about the people, patterns, and moments behind the spotlight. It's thoughtful, it's real, and it's never just surface level. Welcome to Talk Fame to Me. I'm the voice behind the fame. What's up, Fame Fam? Welcome back to Talk Fame to Me with B.Lynette, where we talk pop culture, power, and what really is going on behind the headlines. Now, today we're getting into this Jay-Z GQ interview, and let me just say this. We played enough defense. 2026 is all offense. And Jay-Z came into that interview exactly like that. Let's talk about it. Jay-Z started his interview addressing Tony Busby. Now, for those that don't know, Tony Busby is a high profile attorney known for handling major civil lawsuits, especially cases involving serious allegations. There was a situation where allegations were tied into Jay-Z and Diddy. That case was ultimately dropped. And Jay made it clear how he feels about people throwing accusations around for money, attention, or clout without being sure. And I'm going to say this, I agree, because when you throw false allegations around for the wrong reasons, you're not just telling a story, you are putting someone's livelihood at risk, you are damaging their reputation, and you are placing a stigma on their name. And that just doesn't disappear overnight, okay? Because even when something is proven false, there are still people who will believe it, okay? And then you have news sites, right? That are so focused on being first that they don't care if it's facts or if the facts are misconstrued or completely fabricated. By the time they retract the story, it has already reached millions. So I can understand the anger from anyone who's been accused of something that simply does not align with their character. That's frustration, okay? Now, the difference between Jay Z and me or you is that he has a platform, he can speak out, he can defend himself. A lot of people don't have that luxury. So let's drop a little wisdom right there. Be mindful of what you put out into the world about people because not everybody has the ability to fight back publicly. Now, let's talk about Kanye West. So, Frazier, the interviewer from GQ, brought up a quote Kanye once said, "With Jay, you always see the win." And he asked Jay what he thought Kanye meant by that. Now, let's take it deeper. Back in March 2025, there was a Twitter page allegedly connected to Kanye that posted some of the most vile things about Jay Z and Beyonce's kids. I'm not even going to repeat it because I don't play about kids on this platform. Um, but what threw me off was how Jay answered the question. No grimace, no anger, no visible reaction. And that kind of told me everything that I needed to know. Now, I took that a few different ways. It could be forgiveness, considering Kanye's past public meltdowns. It could be understanding if he's dealing with like mental health and or medication. It could simply be that Jay had already got his lick back and moved on. Because if you paid attention to the beginning of the interview, he already told you how he feels about women and children and how they're off limits. So he didn't really have to go any further. Now, let's go back to that quote with Jay, you always see the win. That's a mentality, that's perception, because people will say, oh, Jay Z only owned a small percentage of the Brooklyn Nets, because he did speak about that in his interview. But a winner says, I owned a piece of the NBA team, and a win is a win. Do y'all see where I'm coming from? Losers pay attention to percentages, winners pay attention to the win. And perception is what separates the losers from the winners. Okay. So when Kanye said that, that's why it's important to kind of surround yourself with people who can see the win and everything that looks like a loss. Now let's talk about the gems Jay was dropping. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. From my perspective, see how I did that? In life, we go through some of the worst situations. And while we're in those storms, all we can see is what's going wrong right now. But once we get through it and everything starts to make sense, we realize that that storm had a purpose. It was leading us somewhere better. I hope y'all understand my analogy. He also talked about this discernment, or being able to like distinguish the two, being able to tell the difference. And not everyone has that gift. So if you do have the gift of discernment, count it as a blessing. Now, something else that stood out to me was him talking about coming from Marcy projects, going through dangerous situations and making it out unscathed, to the point where he's asking himself, why did that happen? And let me ask y'all something real. Have you ever been in situations where you should have not made it out, but you did? And now you're sitting there wondering, why was I spared? What's next? What does God, or whatever higher power you believe in, have in store for me? Now, Frazier also brought up how Jay has pushed the culture forward, okay, but still receives pushback. And Jay basically said, growing up, the American dream was the goal until he reached it, and then suddenly he became the sellout. Let's talk about that, because wouldn't you want to be paid for your work? Would you want a cap on your potential, on your art? This is a lesson. And the lesson is know your worth, add tax, and if it turns into billions, understand that it is deserved. Okay. So stop tearing down your own people because their success looks different from yours. Use it as motivation, not as division. Now let's talk about the music. Jay spoke about his album 444 and how personal it was. He put excuse me, he put his emotions on display for the entire world. Now imagine going through something personal, and instead of a few people gossiping, the entire world is watching. That adds a different level of pressure to a situation that is already personal and vulnerable. And of course, he spoke about Beyonce, praising her talent, her ear for music, her production, as he should, because we've all seen that she's a master at what she does, especially with these last two albums. She is really a excuse me, a true jack of all trades musically. Now, next, let's get into the tea, okay? There was rumors that Jay picked a side in the Kendrick Lamar and Drake situation because of the Super Bowl, but Jay shut that down. He said he chose what the world wanted. And let's be real, Kendrick had a breakout year. That stage only made sense. Now, Jay also said battle rap should fade out because of how far things go now. And I understand what he is saying, because it's no longer just about lyrics, it's fans, it's social media, it's AI, it's bringing families into it. But I disagree, because battle rap is a part of the culture. It always has been. It's raw, it's competitive, it's no boxing gloves, straight knuckles. So I say this, don't jump in it if you can't handle what comes with it, because battle rap is a big boy sport, okay? Now, let's talk about J. Cole. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like he was intimidated, because who wants to drop the ball in front of the whole world? But what if he didn't drop the ball? What if he would have dunked in that moment clean? That would have been iconic. But instead, he stepped back from the basket and it looked like he had the opportunity to slam dunk, and he didn't take it. Now, let's bring it back to Jay, because this is where the real vision comes in. We're talking about his music, because Frazier asked him about his music, or whatever the case was. And this is how I feel about it. I feel like if the blueprint was the blueprint, then where is the finished home? Do y'all understand me? If the blueprint was meant to get you to where Jay-Z is now, Blueprint, his album, for the ones that isn't musically inclined, if the blueprint was meant to get you to where Jay-Z is now, mentally, spiritually, financially, then wouldn't it only be right to show us what the blueprint turned into? What does that growth look like now? What does that mindset sound like now? And that's kind of like what I want to hear. Now, not trying to keep up with the trends, but showing us the results of evolution. Do y'all kind of see the vision? I hope you guys understand what I was saying. So he made an album called The Blueprint, right? And so now Frazier was asking him about music now, and Jay-Z basically is saying that he doesn't want to keep up with the trends. He basically, if he does make music, he wants it to be true to who he is, and not who he was in 1996. And I agree. 96, back in those days, you put out the blueprint. So now I want to see, or I want to hear an album that is like the full home now of what the blueprint created. I hope I didn't lose you guys, okay? Now, let's close this out with Nicki Minaj because, child, this got messy. Nicki has been very vocal about her issues with Jay Z, allegedly tied to the title situation. She believes she had a percentage, and when it was sold, she wasn't compensated. In her words, she's owed around $200 million. Now, the streets are saying her paperwork wasn't handled properly, meaning there's nothing to collect. And that's right. That right there is the lesson. Handle your business because feelings do not override contracts. Now, what stood out to me the most about this interview was what Jay didn't say. A lot of people were waiting for him to address Nicki after the tweets, the accusations, the AI images, the comments about his wife, his business, all of it, but he didn't. And honestly, that might have been the most powerful move he made because there's a saying. What is the saying? Fire needs oxygen to survive. And sometimes the smartest thing you can do is not throw water on it, but starve it of attention completely. No response, no acknowledgement, no energy. Because once you engage, you're feeding the person, the fans, the algorithm. And now what could have died down turns into like a full blown wildfire. And let's be real, at a certain level, as a man, as a mogul, not every situation deserves a back and forth because now it's not about clarity anymore. It becomes like a spectacle. And if the goal on the other side is attention, then responding gives them exactly what they want. So instead of adding fuel to the fire, he removed the oxygen. And without oxygen, even the loudest flames burn out. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And sometimes the real power move is knowing what not to respond to. But I want to know what y'all think, Fame Fam. Did Jay Z play this smart by staying silent? Did J. Cole miss his moment or did he make the right move? And are we like losing the culture of battle rap or just evolving it? Talk to me in the comments because I read everything and I'll see you guys on the next one because everybody wants fame, but not everybody can handle it. And remember, we played enough defense 2026. It's all offense. I'll see you guys. Bye.